What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. And today we want to talk about the third biggest addition of the Chicago Bears offseason for the interior of the offensive line. Let's talk about Jonah Jackson. And as it is the slow time of the offseason in between OTAs and training camp not here yet, I figured out it would be a great time to look back at the free agent and offseason additions of the Chicago Bears and just look at the All-22 and see how good they actually are. And today we want to talk about the third offensive lineman in this little series, we can even call it, of the different film analysis videos that I've already done. And today is all about, like I said, the Mauler, Jonah Jackson. I did an episode on Joe Thuney and also on center Drew Dahlman. So if you want to, feel free to check out those episodes after this video. And with Jonah Jackson and today's video, we want to focus on what he brings to the Chicago Bears offense and the offensive line room, if the value of the contract is good, and if it's overall a good signing for the Bears. Now, with that being said, let's look at the trade details, how the Chicago Bears acquired Jonah Jackson, because he was not a free agent addition. They got him for a 6th-round pick in 2025 from the LA Rams, and we'll talk about the value in the conclusion of today's video. As we can already move on to the contract breakdown, the Chicago Bears essentially extended him already for another year on top of the existing Rams deal that he signed in 2024 in that offseason, so he is under contract through 2027. Now, if we look at the contract overall, it's essentially a 3-year, $52.5 million deal with $29,750,000 guaranteed. He's going to carry a cap hit of $14,750,000 in 2025, and it's going to increase massively in 2026, as he's going to have a cap hit of $25 million overall, and in 2027, his last year of his current contract, he's going to have a cap hit of $17 million. His average salary for those years is going to be $17.5 million, and the Bears have a potential out in 2027, so it's basically a 2-year, $39 million deal, and they would take a $3.5 million dead cap penalty if they decide to not move on with him in 2027, but I think they will, as he's going to be a very interesting player, as you'll see in today's film room. But before we want to go into the All-22 for the stats, in 2024, he played for the LA Rams, like I said, had 4 games, 4 starts under his belt, and had snaps at left guard, center, and right guard, so all the interior offensive line spots, but an injury to his shoulder held him out for most of the year. Now, for today's film room episode, we'll want to look at the 2023 tape, though, because he has much more quality reps there. He played with the Lions under Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator, so that's obviously a great outlook how he's going to look in the Bears scheme as well now moving forward, because it is literally the same scheme. And it's just a great opportunity to watch Jonah Jackson in multiple games. Now, in 2023, for his stats, he appeared in 12 games, started all 12 of those, and had 2 starts in the playoffs as well. And during that time span, he had 881 snaps at left guard, including those playoffs, had 5 penalties overall, and allowed 2 sacks. Now, for today, there's no advanced stats that are any interesting or that I can tell you guys. So with that being said, let's get into the All-22 film and talk about how good he actually is and the stats if they are being reflected by the tape. Joyful is what I would call watching Jonah Jackson destroy other linemen and defenses in the run game, as we will talk about his biggest strength, which is the run game, first of all, before we want to move on to his pass blocking reps. Now, overall, I think he's a very powerful and quick run blocker that finishes his blocks and showed some nastiness to his game. I love Joe Thuney. I love Drew Dahlman. Those are elite offensive linemen, but I think none of these two guys have showed a lot of reps where they actually put a guy on the ground or just finish a block with some demeanor. I think that's what's going to happen with Jonah Jackson. He adds that to the offensive line room, which gets me really excited, and that's why it was so much fun watching his tape. Now, for his run blocking, I think he's a dominant run blocker, and one big aspect I want to go into, first of all, is his quickness. Kind of like Joe Thuney, a very versatile offensive lineman that ran almost every run in the book. There was good insights into what Ben Johnson is going to do with the Chicago Bears. They ran almost every scheme you can imagine in the run game, so he knows all of those schemes and shouldn't have any issues to adapt. But if we're talking about the quickness and what he can do in the run game, let's look at the different runs actually in combination with his quickness. In wide zone schemes, I think he did a really good job of exploding off the ball to win over a gap on wide zone consistently. I think his first step quickness is exceptional, and he really doesn't struggle with getting out of his stance. So that was really good to see. I think he has excellent core strength too, to move with the gap and neutralize a defensive lineman completely from the play. And he was doing really well on reach blocks, especially if he lacked leverage. He's still got it done with his quickness off the line to win over a gap and reach to the defender and turn him around and just neutralize him from the play. And with that, it comes also with some good angles on wide zone too. So that was really impressive on that type of scheme. And then for all the gap schemes, power, counter, trap, that I saw on tape, very good puller on gap plays in my opinion. He has an explosive first step, good speed around the corner, and some great angles on some pulls. So I want to give you guys an example and break down one play a little bit more in depth against the Atlanta Falcons, where they ran a GT counter, a true GT counter against a 4-2-5 over front, running away from the tight end right here. And to me, this play just shows everything we've just talked about so far. First, good explosive step off the line. He gains ground quickly around the corner. And what happens here, most interestingly, is on a counter, he is the kick out man as the guard, and he's going to face a play side 5 technique who squeezes the gap in that scenario. So what Jonah Jackson does here is he adjusts his angle, hits him, and gets around the end's outside shoulder with his helmet for a perfectly adjusted pull and simply washes him down along the line. So you usually want to kick a guy out on gap and then let the puller follow through in between the kick out block from the guard and the tackle who's down blocking. So essentially you want to hit the C gap, but with that end squeezing down that C gap and just closing that gap, he does a great job of adjusting his angle and washing him just down the line, and then the run still hits for a couple of yards. So I think it was an exceptional play to show his intelligence, his speed, his power to perform such a great block. So that was a great example of showing how good he is in the run game. Then another point to make overall is the speed into the second level and the timing on double teams. If we watch him on pin and pull, he showed the ability to climb to the second level with ease and dominate it with some good angles. That was great to see, and just moving very easily and smoothly into the second level. And then also in zone runs, that's obviously a big aspect of running double teams and getting to the linebacker. I think he has really good drive off the ball with some strength on the double teams to move the defensive lineman initially on the first charge, and then has excellent timing multiple times into the second level with constant effort and no quitting on the play, which is obviously so important to show that awareness and just being able to run double teams to gain more yards on plays. So that was really impressive too. And then the last bigger point I want to make is his power and strength in the run game. If he's not a puller on gap runs, he did really well on down blocks, making sure that he's driving the defensive lineman out of the way for the pulls, and is just simply a guy that's going to eliminate and neutralize the opposing defensive lineman. So on down blocks, he looked really good too. So overall, dominant run player that can be used in multiple schemes and has power and quickness to dominate all day long. Now, the one big question mark I had going into this analysis was how well does he do as a pass protector? And is Jonah Jackson Joe Thuney? No, he's not. Does he have to be? No, because we literally have Joe Thuney on the roster and you can work around it. But overall, to just take it away right away, Jonah Jackson is a solid pass protector, and he's not going to be a liability at all. Now, a couple of things he does really well. First of all, is his anchor and his strength as a pass protector. He will drop his butt and shut down a defensive lineman on solo blocks. I think the big key is his hand placement in that aspect, because he has very heavy and strong paws that you will not get off of you after he engaged, which is really impressive to see. I mean, if he locks onto you once, you're not getting away from him. He's just too damn strong. So he consistently denied bull rushers' attempts by a good pad level and just being powerful in his lower half and a good first punch. And talking about his good first punch, there's a great example actually against the Chicago Bears in 2023 that we want to look at, as the Bears in that situation are in a bear front look with TJ Edwards walked up to the line of scrimmage, as Jonah Jackson in that situation faces a very solid Justin Jones at 3 technique, who was a pretty good player for the Chicago Bears. And in this rep, he engages early with his hands, wins over the chest of Jones quickly, and then you can see how the hands are gripping onto the pad, and at that point, there's no more movement, no passing anymore. Justin Jones lost that rep within a second because he had great hand placement and his heavy hands are not letting loose of the defensive lineman, and he just locked him out right here on that rep. So that was a great example for him as a powerful pass protector. And then a couple of more points I want to make is his awareness against stunts and loops and his blitz pickups. I think he does have very good eyes and feel for the rush, and it helped him to identify stunts and blitzes early to lock them down with ease. I think his movement ability displayed here, as well as he redirected his feet and closed the exposed gaps by the stunts fast or by the blitzes. So if you watch him against stunts, you'll see him have good eyes, patient eyes, and then quick movement ability to recover from the stunt. And I really liked what I saw there too. Now for a couple of cons, I don't think he's an elite pass protector. I think sometimes his head gets too involved. He can be exposed to spin moves sometimes. He had a couple of losses against spin moves, and at times, just at times, he struggles against fast change of direction rushers that like to dance around a player. So he could struggle with those, but like I said, as soon as he gets his hands on you, he should do a pretty good job of not letting you go again, and he does have pretty good feet. So it's not bad, it's just a couple of times he lost a couple of reps. But overall, a very solid pass protector that possesses the necessary quickness and big time strength to be successful, paired with his good eyes and awareness. I think he should be definitely a good protector for Caleb Williams moving forward. And with that, we're already at the conclusion of today's video, talking about the questions asked early in the video. What does he add to the Chicago Bears? First of all, I do believe he adds some demeanor and nastiness to the offensive line room, which I love. It was so much fun watching Jonah Jackson destroy a couple of players with finishing on a block and just wanting to play football in the offensive line room. Very much fun to see. Also, he's a former Pro Bowl guard for Ben Johnson and will add the final piece to the revamped interior offensive line with Drew Dalman and Joe Thuney as well, just forming a nasty and dominant interior offensive line trio, and overall a great offensive line with Darnell Wright and Ozzie Trapilo / Braxton Jones right there. Also, he adds versatility in the run game as he knows so many schemes, and also as a player overall who played all the 3 interior spots. If needed, he can step up and make a play at a different position. As for his contract, I mean, Caleb Williams is the future of this franchise. You want to protect the future of this franchise, and Jonah Jackson is another piece to help that, and it's solid money for a solid guard, and I take that any day of the week. And a 6th-round pick, it doesn't matter. You're not getting a better guard than Jonah Jackson in the draft, and he's still only 28, so he's not a super old player anyways either. And then overall, my final words for Jonah Jackson, he is a key addition to the Bears offense for 2025 and moving forward. It will be fun to watch, and I can't wait to see him put some NFC North defensive linemen into the ground. And with that being said, guys, that's the end of today's episode. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't, make sure to check out all the other film analysis videos out that just dropped over the last couple of days. Like and subscribe if you liked the video, and definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Jonah Jackson signing. And as always, guys, bear down.